What's up, guys? I'm DK, and you're watching Pro Wrestling What If, the series where I look at the different what if scenarios as terms of the world that we call professional wrestling. This weekend is the WWE King and Queen of the Ring in Saudi Arabia, and I thought, of course, I would do an episode related on the prestigious King of the Ring tournament. But instead of the usual videos I do where it's what if the main event was different for each of the events, I thought that I would go a different approach to this, considering that I feel like if I went down that route, it would just be a boring video since it would be either the King of the Ring final or the World Championship match when it comes to some sort of gimmick type match, and I feel like that'd be the same thing when I eventually do a kind of video like that for Money in the Bank. So today I'm going to be talking about what if every King of the Ring runner-up had won the tournament. So the person who had lost to the actual winner, if they had won the tournament, what would happen to them after winning King of the Ring? Which I'm going to start off right at the beginning in 1985 and work all the way until the most recent King of the Ring tournament that had happened as the recording this video, which was the 2021 King of the Ring. So starting off with the 1985 King of the Ring tournament, the actual winner was Don Morocco, but the runner-up was the Iron Sheik. So had Iron Sheik won King of the Ring, I think it definitely would have made sense, especially because the year prior, in 1984, he was the WWE champion and was the one to drop it to Hulk Hogan that would begin his huge, long first reign. So I think having one King of the Ring, even though it was just a house show attraction, probably would have led him to at least having one WWE championship match against Hulk Hogan during that title reign. The 1986 King of the Ring, the winner was originally Harley Race, but the runner-up was Pedro Morales. Now, even though Pedro Morales' career was kind of winding down at this point, I think it would have made sense to have him as King of the Ring, considering that he was one of the longest reigning WWE champions at one point, until, of course, your tribal chief Roman Reigns had surpassed that reign. I don't think it would have really propelled him even to a world championship picture, since I believe Pedro Morales for the most part was always a babyface, so there was no way for him to challenge Hulk Hogan realistically. So maybe at this point he's challenging for, let's say, the Intercontinental Champion, since I believe Randy Savage was the champ at this point and he was a full-fledged heel. In 1987, the King of the Ring winner ended up being the Macho Man Randy Savage, but the runner-up was King Kong Bundy. Now, of course, with the size of King Kong Bundy, it would make sense for him to surpass a bunch of different people in a tournament to win, and I think regardless, Randy Savage realistically would have propelled himself to the main event picture whether he won or didn't win the King of the Ring tournament, considering that he was always that number 2 guy below Hulk Hogan. So I think, once again, like I mentioned with the Iron Sheik for 1985, that King Kong Bundy probably would have propelled himself to at least have one WWE Championship match with Hulk Hogan, but that's about it. Once that happens, I think, once again, King Kong Bundy would propel himself down to whatever position he was in the card prior to winning King of the Ring. The 1988 King of the Ring tournament, the winner of this match was Ted DiBiase, but the runner-up was the Macho Man Randy Savage. Now, it kind of would have been interesting at this point for Macho Man to be the first 2-time King of the Ring winner, a feat that was done later on. And of course, at this point in 1988, Macho Man Randy Savage was the WWE champion after defeating Ted DiBiase in the vacant tournament finals at WrestleMania. So I think it made sense for DiBiase to actually get one up on Macho Man and become King of the Ring. But had Macho Man won King of the Ring in this timeline, I think he would have pulled off the Macho King gimmick much earlier than obviously he did a year after, and I think he would have been able to turn heel much sooner than he did, although him turning heel right before WrestleMania was the perfect booking scenario to book the match with Hulk Hogan. But in my mind, I just think, why didn't they have him win in 1989 when he did become the Macho King realistically? In 1989, the King of the Ring tournament was won by Tito Santana, but the runner-up was Rick Martel. Now, I believe at this point they did have the tag team of Strikeforce that had broken up earlier on in the year, and Tito Santana and Rick Martel were feuding with each other, so it kind of made sense for this feud to almost culminate with this King of the Ring tournament, but no one really saw it because it was a house show attraction at this point still. And had Rick Martel had won, I think that at this point he would have developed some sort of king gimmick where he would win the crown, which it wasn't too often that the King of the Ring winner actually did the whole gimmick of wearing the crown and holding the scepter and wearing the cape like Harley Race did in 1986, but I think we may be in a world where Rick Martel would do a King gimmick and we might actually not been able to see the model gimmick involved with Rick Martel that he would actually adopt only months after losing the King of the Ring final. So it almost feels like maybe it was destined that Rick Martel shouldn't have won King of the Ring. The 1991 King of the Ring, the winner was Bret the Hitman Hart, but the runner-up for this tournament was Irwin R. Schyster. Now, I'm not exactly sure what would happen with IRS, considering that for the majority of his career, he was just a tag team wrestler, and so I don't know if they would have put the strap on Irwin R. Schyster to be a possible top heel in challenging Hulk Hogan for the WWE Championship. And I think regardless, had Bret Hart won or not won King of the Ring, he was still going through his momentum of eventually making it to the World Championship picture, but this was just a nice accolade for Bret to have in his career at this point. So 1993's King of the Ring, the first King of the Ring where it actually was a pay-per-view, was won by none other than Bret the Hitman Hart, making him the first two-time winner, but the runner-up was Bam Bam Bigelow. Now, I kind of discussed about this in our shorts portion of the channel when I'm discussing about the opposite main event results for each King of the Ring pay-per-view, which the rest of the video isn't really going to be much of a spoiler because only a couple King of the Ring finals matches were actually the main event of the pay-per-view. But had Bam Bam Bigelow become King of the Ring in 1993, I don't think it would have really propelled him really anywhere because of his position on the card. I think if anything, had Bret Hart lost King of the Ring, and it would have added more sympathy from the fans towards Bret Hart as it adds more build to his climb back to the WWE Championship picture, since of course he did lose the title at WrestleMania 9 a few months prior to Yokozuna, and he was working his way to hopefully win the championship, which he would end up doing at WrestleMania 10. The 1994 King of the Ring tournament, the winner was Owen Hart, but the runner-up of this was the bad guy Razor Ramon. Now, I cannot imagine a world where we never get the whole King of Hearts gimmick from Owen Hart that really propelled Owen Hart's singles run in WWE. And Razor Ramon, it would have been really cool to see him win because I feel like at this point they would have actually given Razor Ramon a reign as the WWE champion. I feel like this would have really halted momentum for Owen Hart, considering he picked up a huge win in the opening match against Bret Hart at WrestleMania 10. So if anything, we would have had really Owen Hart go back to kind of the bottom of the totem pole and try to work his way up, which Bret had really helped him out, putting him over in that WrestleMania match. The 1995 King of the Ring tournament, it was won by Mabel, unfortunately, but the runner-up of this tournament was Savio Vega. Mabel was shot up with a rocket ship as trying to be a threat to, of course, the current champion Diesel. However, with a guy like Savio Vega, I do unfortunately think that he would not be propelled to that World Championship picture, and I definitely don't think he would have had a WWE Championship match against Diesel at SummerSlam like Mabel had ended up doing. If anything, at most, he'd probably get an Intercontinental Championship match. The 1996 King of the Ring tournament, the winner was of course Stone Cold Steve Austin, but the runner-up was Jake the Snake Roberts. Now, it kind of would have been interesting to see Jake the Snake Roberts win the tournament. However, I'm not sure how much Jake Roberts would have been able to propel himself because, of course, at this particular time, even though he was doing the whole Bible preacher gimmick, that he was still dealing with his drug and alcohol abuse issues. And just like Stone Cold Steve Austin, I don't think that this would have led to a main event match with Shawn Michaels for the WWE Championship at SummerSlam, but it probably would have led Jake Roberts to a better position at least, rather than what he had ended up doing and eventually leaving literally January of 97. The 1997 King of the Ring tournament, it was won by Hunter Hearst Helmsley, but the runner-up of the tournament was Mankind. Now, seeing Mankind as King Mankind would have been a little bit funny, especially because maybe we would have seen the four faces of Foley. The 1998 King of the Ring tournament, the winner was Ken Shamrock, but the runner-up of this tournament was The Rock. Now, if anything, it definitely would have made more sense for The Rock to actually win this tournament, knowing what would happen to him later on. In 1998, he would actually win the Deadly Games tournament finals at Survivor Series to crown a brand new champion and ultimately become the corporate champion. And with Ken Shamrock, they didn't really do much with them. At most, he was an Intercontinental Champion. So even though a legit fighter like Ken Shamrock should have propelled himself to the main event picture, it didn't really do much, while with The Rock, even without the King of the Ring tournament, he did propel himself to become the top of the company realistically. So having him win King of the Ring and led him to a title match would have made sense. The 1999 King of the Ring was won by badass Billy Gunn, but the runner-up was X-Pac. Oh God. So all I'm going to say here is that if they could not propel Billy Gunn to the main event picture, then there's just no way in hell that X-Pac was being propelled to the main event picture. Billy Gunn had a look that of course Vince McMahon liked, and he wanted to push him as a world champion, but it just didn't exactly happen. So with a guy that Vince McMahon probably wouldn't appreciate because he was much smaller, then there's just no way that X-Pac would even be close to being propelled as King of the Ring. If anything, X-Pac could have been a guy that would have rocked the crown, the scepter, and the cape, and rocked a King Pac gimmick realistically. The 2000 King of the Ring tournament was won by the Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle, but the runner-up of the match was Rikishi. Now, Rikishi winning King of the Ring kind of would have made sense going into the storyline of being revealed that he was the one to hit Stone Cold Steve Austin with the car. Now, I think it definitely would have made him go into the World Championship picture, although I think he did get one world title match realistically. I think maybe there's a slight possibility that we could have even see a small championship reign with Rikishi. But having that King of the Ring win for Kurt Angle had propelled himself to win the championship much sooner than he probably would have had he not won King of the Ring. I think Kurt Angle still would have won the WWE Championship, but probably not as soon as he did when he actually won King of the Ring. The 2001 King of the Ring tournament, it was won by Edge, but the runner-up of the tournament was the previous winner of Kurt Angle. It kind of would have been cool to see Kurt Angle do back-to-back King of the Ring tournament wins, and I think in this case realistically that the match that Kurt Angle would have later on the night with Shane McMahon, I would see Shane McMahon actually winning that match since Kurt Angle had already won the tournament. And it honestly didn't really do much for Edge considering that he was still in the mid-card title picture up until basically 2005-2006 when he won Money in the Bank and would cash in on John Cena, and with Kurt Angle he ended up getting multiple WWE Championship matches later on in the year, especially the memorable win at Unforgiven after 9/11 had happened. The 2002 King of the Ring tournament, the winner was Brock Lesnar, but the runner-up was Rob Van Dam. I feel like the only way that Rob Van Dam would have been able to pull off a King of the Ring victory at this point, he would have had to have won via a disqualification or a countout, because they were really protecting Brock Lesnar at this point, and that he was being shot with the rocket ship right to the top of the mountain. Maybe if it was some sort of win like a pinfall or maybe a submission, probably just a pinfall, that at the following pay-per-view of Vengeance where we did see Rob Van Dam versus Brock Lesnar for the Intercontinental Championship, that maybe in this match Brock Lesnar would have a match with Rob Van Dam for that SummerSlam title opportunity where Brock Lesnar would win that match, and that we would still get Brock Lesnar versus The Rock at SummerSlam that year. So Brock Lesnar being the winner in the real timeline was the absolute right call, and that it just wouldn't have made sense for Rob Van Dam to win at this particular time. Now we skip a few years and the tournament final happens at Judgment Day 2006, where it was won by Booker T, but the runner-up was Bobby Lashley. Now of course we've seen the rare instance where someone wins King of the Ring, does the whole crown and scepter gimmick, and it actually worked out well, but had Bobby Lashley won the King of the Ring in 2006, I think he would have kind of been built up as much as Brock Lesnar, where he didn't have to wear, of course, the whole crown, scepter, and cape gimmick, and that he would just be this badass wrestler that would indeed propel himself to the World Championship picture, and would probably end up wrestling a match with Rey Mysterio, where he would probably win the match and turn heel in the process. I just don't see a world where people would cheer Bobby Lashley for defeating a beloved babyface wrestler like Rey Mysterio, and that it would have turned Bobby Lashley heel right off the bat. So we could have seen a dominant heel reign of Bobby Lashley as the World Heavyweight Champion, and probably would have ended up leading to a pretty crazy car wreck of a match between Bobby Lashley and a returning Batista from injury for the World Heavyweight Championship. The 2008 King of the Ring tournament was won by William Regal, but the runner-up of the tournament was CM Punk. CM Punk was also one of those people that I just don't see obviously wearing the crown and doing that whole king gimmick, and this would have continued to add momentum to CM Punk, considering that obviously earlier in the year he had won the Money in the Bank ladder match at WrestleMania 24. So already in the year he's being super pushed because he's winning Money in the Bank, and then of course he becomes the King of the Ring. And I think at this point he would have been able to turn heel much quicker than he did when he had won the Money in the Bank the second time and cashed in on Jeff Hardy. So we could have seen a heel world championship reign with CM Punk most likely in 2008. The 2010 King of the Ring tournament was won by Sheamus, and the runner-up for this was John Morrison. Now I think regardless of both of these superstars, I think either one was going to wear that crown and cape. Sheamus did it pretty decently, not gonna lie, but it would have looked kind of weird with John Morrison, even though he probably would have added some sort of flair to it. However, I feel like there would have been more that was done with Sheamus as King of the Ring rather than what they would have done with John Morrison as King of the Ring. I don't think it would have propelled him to the main event scene. He would still be stuck in that mid-card picture. Then we go to the 2015 King of the Ring tournament, which was won by Bad News Barrett, but the runner-up was Neville. This, alongside the 93 King of the Ring, was one of the only King of the Ring tournament finals that actually main evented its event. Even though this technically wasn't a pay-per-view, it was actually like a WWE Network special. And honestly, I don't see them doing anything whatsoever with Neville as King of the Ring besides rocking the crown, cape, and scepter, and that it would have just been a way to add a new gimmick to Neville. The way that Barrett's King of the Ring run would have definitely been better than what we probably would have seen had Neville won King of the Ring. Then in 2019, the King of the Ring tournament was won by Baron Corbin, but the runner-up was Chad Gable. It was just a way to add something to Baron Corbin so that they can kind of keep him relevant, and I think that would have been the case with Chad Gable also, considering I believe shortly after is when Chad Gable adopted the Shorty G gimmick. So regardless, it would have either been Shorty G or it would have been King Gable or King G. It would have been a King gimmick. And the most recent King of the Ring as of the recording of this video was in 2021 in Saudi Arabia, which the tournament was won by Xavier Woods, but the runner-up of this tournament was Finn Balor. Now, of course, Xavier Woods did adopt the whole crown and cape gimmick, and I kind of figured that this would lead to nowhere for Xavier Woods. There'd be no world championship reign, even though his fellow teammates in the New Day of Big E and Kofi Kingston would become WWE champion at some point. It ended up being short-lived actually also, because I believe when they did the program with Roman Reigns and Roman Reigns destroyed the crown and scepter, that just ended the King of the Ring gimmick. So once again, this was a very rough time for King of the Ring, where they only did this tournament so that they could probably put a new gimmick on someone that may actually need it. And had Finn Balor won King of the Ring, I actually definitely think that it would have benefited Finn Balor. Anyways, that's going to be the end of this edition of Pro Wrestling What If. And if you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Press the notification bell so that you're notified of when future episodes release, and share this to all your friends. Let me know in the comments section down below on what you would think would happen if each of the runner-ups won the King of the Ring tournament. But thank you for watching, and I hope to see you guys on next week's edition of Pro Wrestling What If.